It's been nearly 50 years since Mercedes came out with the S-Class, and ever since its creation, it's been pushing the forefront of in-car technology. It's Mercedes' way of bringing the best or nothing to life, and really is a level above the rest of the range. Now, it's all very good me telling you that, but the proof is in the pudding, so let's take a look round, shall we? My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. Before we start, please like, subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like us to keep bringing you this content. Also, don't forget to follow our socials for updates on our stock. Links in the description below. Okay, first off, the engine. This is the facelifted S-Class, so it uses their brand new inline-6 diesel. It puts out 286 horsepower and a very impressive 600 Newton meters of torque. And that torque comes in from just 1200 RPM. That means this limo does 0 to 60 in just 5.7 seconds, and should do a pretty good 30 to 70 time. Let's see if I'm right. Well, for a car that weighs nearly 2 tons, it's done pretty well. We managed a time of just 6.19 seconds, and that puts it just behind some hot hatches. The way it gets there though is just effortless, almost feels like you're taking off in an airliner. Inside, the S-Class contains a plethora of technology, from dual high-resolution screens to heated, cooled and massaging seats. There's even smaller details like a control wheel that somehow stops when you get to the bottom of a menu, and the air balance system that infuses the air with a fragrant of your choice. Being an S-Class though, the rear is where you want to be, as it's effectively first class for the road, especially if you're in the left rear passenger seat. You can literally stretch your legs all the way out whilst watching your favourite TV show. In fact, before we go driving, let's see what it's like to be driven in. Firstly, you have a remote either side that can control any screen in the cabin, even the ones in the front. You use this remote to control your TV, climate and seat options. You've then got some wireless headphones that actually look pretty good, as they've kind of copied the design off the Burmester speaker grills. You've then got what is possibly the most comfortable way to travel on the road. It's one thing seeing the seat recline, but actually experiencing it is something else. Everything just feels right, and being able to genuinely stretch all the way out almost feels weird. I mean, it's like you shouldn't even be able to do it. Anyway, moving on, you've got 2 pop-up cup holders, some USB ports and a wireless charger for your phone. Then, being an S-Class, they don't want you seeing any plastic, so they've covered up the rear hatch with a lovely little cushion. You have the option to get a fridge back here, but this one just has some extra storage. Finally, if you wish to get some shut-eye, you can close up every source of light in the rear and make the car feel cosy for those longer journeys. And let me tell you, I've sat in some comfy cars, but this is seriously next level. You could happily do 12 hours back here and not even feel it. The boot, it's got 550 litres of space, which is actually good for a luxury saloon. Enough for 4 large suitcases, which is important when you're chauffeuring your clients around. Of course, all those electrical gubbins in the rear means you can't fold the seats down, which isn't exactly ideal, but unless you're moving house, you rarely need more than the S-Class has to offer. Right, let's get in the driver's seat, shall we? Now, of course, the first thing you notice is just how quiet this car is inside. I've driven C-classes, E-classes, A-classes, and this is in a totally different league. Even when compared to the E-Class, this is a totally different car. There is so much more sound deadening in this, and that level of quality transfers over to the steering and suspension as well. This air suspension system is just unreal over speed bumps. It really does feel like you're flying in a plane, and the damping of all the controls is just perfect. And when you go around a corner, the side bolsters on the seat actually inflate to keep you dead center in your chair. It means you basically don't have to move a single muscle to drive this car. In fact, I'm already feeling sleepy just driving this thing around. It is that relaxing. In terms of parking, this is a big car, but don't think Mercedes skimped on the camera systems. because you would be very wrong. You've got lines telling you where you're going to go. You have an overhead camera, and you have a reverse camera, and then you've got a wide angle reverse camera, you've got cameras on the sides, you've got a camera on the front, then a wide angle camera on the front as well. Pretty much everything you could possibly need to make sure you get into a space in one go. Parking sensors are accurate. They're all round parking sensors as well, so you get parking sensors all around the sides of the car, and it means the chances of hitting something are pretty much zilch. Plus, if you do get too close to an object, the car will just hit the brakes anyway, so you can pretty much put your foot down, going straight towards a wall, and the car will just stop. Although I wouldn't advise testing that out for yourself. Now, this might be a big boat, but it still needs to handle well. It doesn't need to oversteer, but it does need to be predictable. So put your foot down, coming around a corner. That side, oh my god, it actually goes sideways. We're just in comfort mode as well. I know it's rear wheel drive, but I was expecting the ESC to cut in straight away then. Well, who knew that? A diesel S-Class will have a bit more rotation than you might expect going around a corner. Thankfully, the active side bolsters kept me in my seat. For now though, we're going to see how this S-Class performs on the motorway. After all, that's where it's going to spend most of its time. Plus, we're going to see what kind of MPG this car does. Now this is more like it. The road noise and wind noise, or lack thereof, in this S-Class is almost undescribable. I mean, the difference between this and something like a Mercedes C-Class is just so profound. I don't really know how to put it into words. The road noise is some sort of distant echo of what road noise would sound like from something 2 miles away, and the wind noise is just non-existent. It's about as much noise as you get from your standard car's air conditioning system on a low setting. And then in terms of seat comfort, of course, it's amazing. You've got those active bolsters keeping you in place, and there's just so much adjustment in the seat. And even then, there is a whole seats setting in the infotainment system where you can change everything from your massage to your lumbar to your dynamic seat settings. The massage also has a plethora of different options to choose from. You have a hot relaxing back massage, or if you want something a bit more invigorating, you can go for a mobilizing massage. And all of these things are actually quite good, surprisingly. Usually massage systems in cars can be a bit gimmicky. Certainly the ones I've experienced in the past have been exactly that. Even in older S-Classes, they've been exactly like that. But this one is genuinely quite good. Then in terms of visibility, it's like any saloon car, really. It's very easy to see out of. You've got pretty thin A-pillars. B-pillars are thicker, but they're still easy to see around. And of course, you've got that usual curved bit of glass that just lets you know there's nothing in your blind spot. Moving on to interior quality, you might be surprised to hear that later Mercedes have actually not been that great in that department. They look very flashy, but when you start prodding around, you start getting creaks and squeaks from the interior. But thankfully, Mercedes have really focused on the S-Class, and it is absolutely rock solid. Everywhere you touch, you've got these really nice soft squidgy materials under the leather, and there's no squeaks or rattles to be heard of, which is surprising considering the amount of stuff this car has in it. Then in terms of driving dynamics on the motorway, steering is nice and light still, yet it's still fairly direct. But the main thing, and something that's always been the main thing for the S-Class, is their suspension system. Of course, this is air suspension, and it just feels like there is kind of air beneath you. It doesn't feel like there's actually a road surface underneath the car. Now, in terms of options for this car, the things I would choose are pretty much the same as what I'd choose for any car. The first one's obviously going to be that upgraded sound system. A, it looks really nice because you get these metal grills, and B, it just sounds awesome. It really is a level above the rest of the Mercedes range. Then the next thing, it was quite a hard choice for me. I kind of really wanted that camera system because it's quite a big car, but because you're going to be a passenger in this a lot, I would say go for the sunroof. Without it, it is quite dark back there. And if you do want it to be dark, you can close all the sunroofs, you've got shades anyway, so you've got that sort of dynamic environment in the rear seat. Then the last thing would actually be an adaptive cruise control system. This car would really suit having a system like that. Normal cruise control is fine, but it would be really nice to just have that extra level of tech to help you driving on the motorway. Well, coming off the motorway, we managed quite frankly astonishing 54 miles per gallon. I watched quite a few reviews on this and they weren't getting anywhere near that, so I'm not sure what they were doing, but I do this exact route every single time in every single car I review, and yeah, this is getting 55 mpg, going at pretty much 70 miles an hour the whole way down the motorway. Anyway, let's watch that figure drop and get on to some B roads. Alright, let's see how this S-Class handles. Got it in individual, so the ESP is actually in sport, and the car does actually want to go sideways. Can hear the rear tyres squealing in an S-Class. And this isn't even an S63, this is just your regular diesel. And look, this engine has great amount of mid-range punch. 600 newton meters of torque. It just carries you up to 70 miles an hour so quickly, this. And those active bolsters really do work well. They keep you dead center in the seat. It's quite odd driving something that doesn't really want you to egg it on quickly, but it'll do it. It really will do it. Couldn't really go much faster around the corners in a Golf GTI, to be honest. It's actually quite good fun. You'd never expect a big barge like this to handle well. It really does though, it really does. Steering is sharp. I'm not crossing my hands a lot, not doing too much wheel twirling. Can use the paddles, gearbox responds well, brake feel is good. Look at that! You can get a surprising amount of rotation out of this thing. And all the ESP systems are still on. I actually changed it to ESP Sport for the individual mode that we're in now. I'm not sure if you can turn it off completely. I'm sure you can. There's got to be a way. I just don't know how to do it. If anybody does know, please let me know in the comments below. But on some wider roads, it's good fun. It's genuinely a good fun car to drive, even though it's just a diesel. So you're an Italian mobster and you found yourself being chased on a British B road. Don't know how that happens. But how does an S-Class perform in that regard then? Well, we know on the wider stuff it performs very well. And even over bigger bumps, it's disconcertingly good. I wouldn't say it's necessarily confidence inspiring in a way. It kind of just does it. God, it's impressive, this machine. I can tell you now, they definitely drove this thing around the Nürburgring a couple of times because it handles a B road far better than it should do. I have to say, I'm genuinely surprised. The S-Class can actually be fun on a B road, yet can still be the boatiest boat of a car on the motorway. It seems to defy physics with the way it goes around a corner. I think the reason it doesn't inspire confidence is because you're just so isolated from the road. But if you treat it like a computer game, it actually kind of makes sense. It's easy to drive fast, easy to drive slow, and easy to be driven in. And that's why it really is still the best in its class. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like, and why not subscribe, as not only can you see more videos like this, you can also see all the stock we have for sale. My name's Tom, and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.